The nation's Roman Catholic bishops have opened a new front in their fight against abortion and same-sex marriage. At this week's bishops' conference, the decision was made to begin pushing their cause as a struggle for religious liberty against a government and culture they say are infringing on the church's rights. John Gehring is a senior writer and outreach coordinator with the Strategy Center, Faith in Public Life. Good day to you, John. And I want to start with this. You know, I was looking at what the Archbishop of New York said. He said this is basically the neutering of religion. Can you describe what the concern is here?
Sure. Well, I see this very differently. You know, the Catholics that I work every day with in the Catholic social justice movement are concerned about the moral scandal of poverty, growing income inequality. And what's striking to me, and I think a lot of Catholics in the pews who take our church seriously, who respect our bishops have just met for a national meeting and not talked about poverty at all. Income inequality was not on the agenda. And while religious liberty is certainly an important issue, and it's an issue of value of our country and we need to protect it, I'm puzzled, and I think a lot of Catholics in the pews are puzzled that the bishops would choose to sort of launch this front at a time when 1 in 6 children live in poverty and we're dealing with income inequality that's the worst it's been in years.
So. Like Occupy Wall Street, so you're thinking in line with what we've seen all across the country.
Exactly, and the Vatican just came out with a very powerful document just last week talking about the need for more robust regulation of the financial sector. Pope Benedict has talked about the scandal of glaring inequality. So this is something that's been front and center of the Catholic social justice tradition for centuries.
So do you disagree then with the Archbishop of New York when he's saying that he believes that the current situation, the way government and the church is now working together, that they're not, first of all, which I think you can agree with, but he's working towards religious liberty. What do you think he means when we're talking about that?
Well, I think the Archbishop is concerned about conscience rights, you know, issues of contraception being covered under insurance. And as I said before, these are legitimate questions.
Issues of abortion and homosexuality.
Exactly. And I think where I'm sitting, in the Catholics that I talk to every day, the Catholic priests that I work with, sisters, what I'm hearing is keeping people up at night is not necessarily these issues. Certainly they're important and we should have a civil dialogue about them, but they're far more concerned about the real scandal of poverty in our country that is growing. And back in the 1980s, Catholic bishops were front and center on these debates. They really, in fact, challenged the Reagan administration's theories of trickle-down economics. And we don't see that today, and we'd like to see our bishops speaking more robustly on these issues. On the issues, again, going back to income inequality, the issues, for instance, of stopping human trafficking and other items at that level. So religious liberty, what is it that the church wants right now? What is this push? Well, I think there's some tensions between the government and religious institutions where, you know, you have an example of a grant that was denied to the Bishops' Conference around human trafficking. The Bishops' Conference has worked for years helping victims of sexual trafficking, but they will not refer these victims to contraception or reproductive services, so you have a clash there. But I would like to point out, I think the key point in here, there can be substantial policy differences, and there are, but I think it's a mistake to cast this in terms of religious bigotry or anti-Catholic bias. I think that's going a step way too far. This administration, the Obama administration, has been a good partner to Catholic organizations. They've increased funding to Catholic relief services, Catholic charities. Just recently, 150 leaders of Catholic Charities USA were at the White House. So leave it as is. We got to go, but you're basically saying leave it as is. Everything's fine. Well, I'm not saying everything's fine, but we need to have these conversations in a civil way and not in an extreme kind of dialogue, culture war fashion.
John Gehring, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All righty. All right. Tweehards, we're just